Obviously, we already know that Ollie and AD end up together, at least after Perfect Match. But we're assuming that they get together officially on Perfect Match because they're together now, they're engaged, and they have a child on the way. Now, both AD and Ollie were big players in their seasons of Love is Blind, and that's probably why they've been brought back. Notably, with AD, it seemed like everybody was rooting for her, but it was very noticeable that she was a bit of a pick-me, and the fact that she picked Clay, everybody was side-eyeing that because Clay was just clearly a clown. And ultimately, she kind of ended up embarrassing herself at the altar, dedicating herself to Clay, who was an absolute fool and is still a fool to this day, only to be rejected. But ultimately, this was a good thing. Was it embarrassing for AD? Absolutely. But in the end, this was a blessing, and that was the general consensus of the time. We knew if there was going to be a no, it was going to come from Clay. So this is what we, the audience, wanted. So I think ultimately people were rooting for AD, but they were disappointed with the pick-me antic. Now, with Ollie, I feel like there were mixed reactions with Ollie on his season. Personally, I didn't have much favorable opinions on him when I was covering his season because I did think that his behavior was questionable. He ended up getting engaged to someone who he clearly wasn't attracted to, forcing things, and they took it to the altar and mutually decided that they weren't going to get married. With Ollie specifically, there was a bit of drama because people were speculating and making assumptions on what his actual type was. His fiancée was mixed race and very much an everyday mid-sized woman. But he did have another connection in the pods, a white woman, who also ended up engaged to Freddie, who's also on the show. And in the first meet, it seemed like he liked what he saw. So people were speculating, well, what's his type then? Is his type white women? Then at the meet, where everybody comes together, there's another mixed race girl there, and she very much has the baddie aesthetic. And he was very much like, oh, she's sublime. She's a baddie. So then people were concluding like maybe his type is like white mixed race at a stretch. And from the information gathered, that's what I assumed as well. But he came out in the reunion to dispel the narrative against him. And he says that he was offended by this narrative and basically said that this is all false allegations and that he loves his melanated queens. I think a lot of people were still skeptical about him though. Then the rumors started flying that him and AD were together. And when I first heard that, I was kind of like, what an odd pairing. I would have never thought of them getting together. Like, how would that work? But AD, she is a baddie, the body is banging. And I feel like that would definitely cater to Ollie's ego. And she's a pick-me, and I feel like that would cater towards Ollie's ego. And before it was all officially confirmed, at this point people are just putting photos together. We're seeing them at nice places. They're in fancy hotels, they're going out on fancy dates. And one of the reasons why I suspected that Ollie and Demi weren't a match is because he was really doing the bare minimum, and he was basically telling her he doesn't do, fancy stuff, ostentatious gifts. That's what he was telling Demi in the pods. And when he said that, I was like, he don't like this woman. He don't rate this woman. But for AD, he's pulling out all the ostentatious gifts. They stayed in the fancy hotels. I was like, okay, he must actually like the girl because he's pulling out all the stops to impress. And yeah, he has to, because these American girls don't play. In the UK, we're used to misery, so men can get away with doing the bare minimum a lot more. But he definitely wasn't gonna get away with that with AD, because AD, she's a material girl. Now, some people were suspecting it's just a PR relationship, and I personally could understand that perspective. It does happen a lot in the reality TV world. But then they announced on like the last Love is Blind reunion that they're gonna be on Perfect Match and that they're engaged. And we even saw a cute video of their engagement. Now, it's one thing faking a relationship for PR, but an engagement? I don't think they would fake an engagement. So clearly, they liked each other. And now they're getting married. And on top of that, they're also having a child. Like, AD's like 6 months pregnant. Personally, I would have preferred having this all released after the show was out. I mean, Netflix did help with the announcement, but I feel like they should have waited until the season was finished to reveal the engagement and the pregnancy. But maybe that was just a long time for them to wait. Maybe their contracts for certain like NDAs and stuff were expiring, or maybe them keeping this a secret wasn't in their contract, so they cut a deal with Netflix. I don't really know the legal ins and outs. But now that we know that they're together, they're engaged, to have a baby on the way, and they're seemingly in a happy relationship, will this affect the way that people critique their relationship on the show? Now on to the actual show. There was lots of speculation on how they actually ended up together on the show. Some people were speculating that Ollie wasn't AD's first choice and that she was maybe like the second or third pick, and she wasn't the first pick. Some people being shady like that. But as we watch the show, we see clearly that AD was Ollie's first pick. They pretty much connected instantly. And you can see that they had chemistry there. There was sexual chemistry there. Their personalities seemed to match. They get along with each other well. There were instances where they were making each other jealous. And from the way that the show is edited, they do seem like a good match. There was even a point in the show where Ollie was a bit messy and he was basically like, I honestly think that we have a stronger connection than what I had with my fiance, Demi. Demi catching a stray, darling. You didn't have to bring Demi's name in it. You really stressed her out enough, one. So they were going really well until AD was essentially kicked off of the show. And it was all really emotional. AD's basically having a breakdown, saying that she doesn't want to leave. Ollie's not going with her though. And she's just basically like, well, we'll see if he waits for me, once his time is up, and we'll take it from there. And literally the next day he was cuddled up with Justine from Love Island. And now in the next batch of episodes, she's coming back in, and Ollie's definitely gonna have to explain himself why he was up there cuddling up in the bed less than 24 hours after she left. Obviously, at this point in the show, they are technically early days. Yes, they had a good connection, but it's very much like in the honeymoon stage. This is not them engaged or anything. Lucky for Ollie, it was just cuddling, but he's definitely gonna have to explain himself, and he was already thinking, oh shit, because I've already done some dirt, I have to admit. But ultimately, I don't know, can AD be mad? I mean, it was a cuddle, he's still on the show, he's still got to see what's out there. Or what do you think? Do you think he shouldn't have been cuddling up with Justine? He should have at least waited, 48 hours? I mean, they're clearly getting back together. But let me know what you guys think. I think another funny thing is they did have a challenge where Ollie revealed that his name for his private parts is the Womb Raider. AD picked it as her favorite nickname, and she was basically like how she's excited and both scared to find out why that's his nickname for his private parts. And obviously right now she's 6 months pregnant, so clearly the womb has been raided. But yeah, I gotta hear from you guys. What are we thinking about AD and Ollie's story on Perfect Match Season 3?